start with a video. Yes. Okay, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Anna Lam.
My name is Guido Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Shane McDonald.
Hey guys, my name is Saif.
Hi, my name's Alan.
My name is Lazar.
Media portrays my community and my way of life sort of based on stereotypes a lot.
It upsets me because that's how we're perceived.
It's important for us to represent our communities our ways.
Because mainly in the TV now you see, Middle Eastern, there is a crime, or Asian. The main thing is to maybe give them something good.
And us being from this area, I think we've got a great chance to tell the rest of Australia.
Look, we are not bad people.
It's nice for people to explore other communities.
We're gonna understand each other, we live better life,
I think a camera is like a window through imagination,
It's a part of who we are.
I guess the first highlight of the year was meeting the team.
Seeing the other guys, like they're all into film, and I don't know, they were just like me, but just from different parts of Western Sydney.
Me being part of modern media also puts me in a place to be. I can tell people I also belong.
I think the highlight for me, and the second highlight, was being able to finish a project.
My mum, Maria Fernanda Gonzalez Contreras, fled Chile in the 1980s, seeking asylum from poverty and persecution.
My mom, Zahra al-Askari, fled Iraq in 1995, seeking freedom from the persecution of Saddam. Villa with Moms, that was a big hit, because many people watched it. We had many people talk about it with us, I done a couple of radio interviews, newspapers as well. So that was a big highlight for me.
Having it seen on screen, with all the work we've done to make it happen, was well worth it,
Fui. It was very sad. Muy triste. Muy triste. Muy triste.
Villa with Moms is a story about my mom and Guido's mom. They both came to Villa Detention Center. They went through that. This story, it's different than Shane's story, which is the film Wake Up. Wake Up film, it reminds the mother and the father to wake up for their kids,
I think doing my first short is something I never thought I would ever do. Wake Up's about a young kid out in the street breaking into cars. The reason I wanted to tell this story is Western Sydney has a high crime rate of cars being broken into or breaking enters and stuff. I've lost a lot of friends and family to this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter where you are, this is gonna affect somebody in some way. I think if one person sees this film and and realizes what's going on around, they'll be more aware of it. Maybe they could stop stuff before it gets to that next point. And that's the whole reason why I've done this film. Here at CURIOUSWORKS, they've given me my own voice, my own way to speak out about myself.
It gave me a big confidence, and then the sound and the filmmaking and all this stuff, of course.
More skills, I got more of a taste of what it was like in the industry.
I think I learned that if we have an idea, we can make the idea come alive.
The difference is that it comes from us, and if we haven't said anything, no one knows we even have a story. But now we're gonna say it, so it makes it different.
We worked on the Financial Services Union. It was a project focusing on women who were fighting against the quotas set by a certain bank, and that was a highlight because it did actually have a big impact on the people that we worked with, and it was a very emotional experience for the ladies as well.
Unfair targets has been an issue on the Central Coast for a while, but it really came to a head about a year ago, March 2009. The region sent a directive that basically doubled all our daily targets.
It was good for the crew, it was good for myself in the sense that we learnt something which was the skills that we'd learn in the future that we'd need.
Metamedia is
a group of 6 professional filmmakers
from Western Sydney,
all formed together through the help of CURIOUSWORKS.
What we're doing is documenting life in southwestern Sydney.
We know the local area, we know the people that we're servicing, and they're dedicated to those areas to service them for any community and business documentary needs. Okay, so what can you expect from Metamedia now and in the future? You can expect a great portfolio expanding with different types of businesses and community organisations getting involved.
And you can expect the truth from our areas.
We want to go bigger, and we want to do it as our full-time jobs, you know.
So I think we can go further.
We're going to do a great job, and that's what we're looking for.
I think the trendsetters, so it'll be good just to see where they go.
At the turn of the millennium, the World Bank asked 60,000 people who lived on less than $1 a day a simple question: why aren't you earning more? What's the biggest barrier stopping you from building opportunity in your life? And some of the predominant needs that they answered with are things that we expect: access to food and to water. But there are also some surprising needs that they put forward. And the most predominant need was a different kind of nutrition. Overwhelmingly, they defined poverty as not having a voice. Without having a voice, they didn't see how they could break down the cycle of being able to, live on more than $1 a day and earn more than $1 a day. And this is something that, surprises us at first. It's not how we're thought to think about developing communities and charity and community and, all those kinds of ideas and poor people. That a story is as crucial a component of breaking down the disadvantage as having access to infrastructure and food and water. But if we think about it, it's actually not that surprising. You think about the billions of dollars spent on advertising, Yes We Can with Obama, Kevin 07, or even the Third Reich. Storytelling is obviously crucial to the success of any of us, and a crucial part of our identity and how communities get formed. And we only have to look to our own First Peoples to see a kind of beautiful summary of that idea. The dreaming is basically the idea that the planet was woven in stories and song, and if we don't keep telling those stories and those songs, then reality itself ceases to exist. The people who are missing a voice, though, tend to have kind of supplementary issues that come with not having a voice. Maury did a study on Australian media and found that 92% of Australian media that features young people features young people in a negative manner. And only 8% of that media actually has young people talking about themselves. And we find this with a lot of communities that don't have a strong voice. Broadly speaking, it's quite negative. If you don't have a voice, you tend to get a bad rap. And you tend to get a bad rap from other people. So broadly speaking, you have other people representing you. So the capacity to build your story of how you're building dignity and opportunity is as important as the act itself. And that's what we kind of drew from that research at CURIOUSWORKS. The other thing we found was that that kind of incapacity to have a voice, or the kind of systems that exist which stop people from having a voice, tend to be located in particular places. Tony Vincent did this report where he looked at disadvantage in a really kind of broad spectrum with lots of different types of indices for it. And he mapped them to postcodes. We can actually have postcodes in Australia where we have the most disadvantage. And so what we see from that is that not having a voice locates itself in places and further entrenches itself. And like Jess was saying earlier, the future is here, but for people who it hasn't arrived for, it's getting further and further away. With CURIOUSWORKS, one of the most exciting things we think about digital media, and I don't need to go into with a crowd like this, the people listening on the stream, on why digital media and its how easy and powerful and accessible and cheap it can be, like Barry was showing us, to have a voice. What we find most exciting about digital media is that we're in a transition period. We haven't gone to the next stage where the way that digital media impacts on how we are telling and sharing our stories is part of our realities yet. We're still working it out. So we have an opportunity here to fundamentally change the way that stories are shared and talked about in this country by giving digital media and the power that comes with it to those who are most strongly missing a voice. And so what we thought a lot about was, how can we build a new infrastructure? How can we actually build an infrastructure that takes advantage of the ancient power of storytelling and matches it with the new power of digital media so that those communities fundamentally change? And we first of all figured out what we can't do. We knew that we couldn't do it in a short-term way. There were lots of people providing brief moments of joy for community, and then the project was finished, and they went, that was great, and now we have to go back to the future, and we'll leave you guys here. We couldn't provide just equipment and infrastructure. We worked in a remote Indigenous community, which only had about 900 people in it, and it had a fully functioning TV station that was built there in the 60s. It was awesome, a really cool TV station, and no one in town knew how to use it. So there's no point just giving infrastructure and equipment without the capacity to build on top of that. And thirdly, these communities, for good reason, don't trust people. They don't trust their councils, they don't trust government, and they don't trust visitors who come and say, we have these great plans for you, and we're going to change your lives. Because for the previous couple of hundred years, or the last 10 years, or the last 2 years, if you're a recent refugee, they have no reason really to say, yeah, that's going to work for me, I should be this part of this initiative. So what we looked at was, if you're going to build an infrastructure, how can you embed it into the daily lives of people? How can you make it not a project that people do, but part of the very fabric of their lives? How can you hang around for long enough to make sure that you build your capacity from the bottom up? And then how can you make yourself redundant? That's our overall arching goal. I really like going to the beach, and I like waking up late, and I hope that once we finish, I can just do that every day, and other people can tell their stories. I mean, I'm an artist, and I like telling my stories, but I like the beach the most. So we work towards our own redundancy. If we're not doing that, if we don't become useless, then we're not achieving our goals. These are in the very kinds of places Barry was talking about, so it's a really nice link. This is in Roebourne, which is just a bit northwest of that town in the desert that he zoomed into. And so I just wanted to provide 3 kind of examples of how we've started doing this and embedding community and digital media technology into the everyday lives of people. This is a project with Penrith City Council. And what we did there was we focused on a way of tying into how the council wants to develop Penrith with what the citizens want for Penrith. And it's a very simple idea. We worked with the council to find 10 to 15 people who wanted to learn more skills in digital media, and they got paid after they got trained by us to accompany council researchers who were building the Neighbourhood Action Plan, which is like this blueprint for the next 10 years of Penrith. And they made little docos with different elements of the community that the council was talking to, and these digital media pieces were uploaded to an online infrastructure, an online map of Penrith. And so all these little docos, there was formed an audio-visual kind of representation of what the people of Penrith wanted for their community. And crucially, before we started the project, we said that the council had to reply to that in its council meetings. So councillors had to load up this Google map of Penrith, see what the people of Penrith wanted, and reply to why they were going to fund that or why they weren't going to fund that. And it's a two-way street. This is the beautiful thing about it. Because if you're a person in Penrith and you want a particular hall to be, your African music centre, and another part of Penrith wants it to be, the young people, or the veteran society's kind of memorial site, they have to negotiate with each other that there might be two contrasting needs, and we have to share that space. For the council side of things, it was great, because I was talking about that distrust before. They didn't have a way to access communities to actually speak honestly about the way that they saw Penrith when the councils went and did their research. But when people from Penrith were asking other people from Penrith those questions, they suddenly got all this genuine, honest, authentic information which they never had access to, and they actually had a blueprint for really developing the neighbourhood the way they wanted to, and they couldn't access that before. The second example I wanted to give was working over in, that's the map, working over in Newman, in remote WA, which is kind of a mining town in the centre of all those remote Indigenous communities in WA Barry was talking about. We were about to start a major project there, and it was going to be based out of a youth centre, and it closed down about a week before we started. So we had to follow two different paths, and that failure, like Jess was mentioning before, led to a really fantastic kind of innovation that we've continued in our different programs. And so we did two things there. We built infrastructure in the schools and helped the teachers make how they taught at school. All of the kind of stuff we've been talking about was built into how they taught the curriculum and all the different subjects at school. And the second thing we did was we found a core group of really interested young people who really desperately wanted their youth centre back, and basically chained this kind of crack social media team to lobby for their youth centre. And after kind of consistent lobbying, they got it back. The council committed $4.5 million to rebuilding their youth centre. They were 10 to 12 years old. They presented at the council, they presented to various politicians, and they made their own website and had their promo videos. And the beautiful thing is they now have responsibility for making sure that the youth centre stays and then make it a vibrant and flowing place, because they're the ones who campaign to get it back. And the school teachers and those young leaders are making us redundant. We don't need it anymore. And they're hosting their own local annual film festival. And we have this beautiful thing happening where these 10 to 12-year-olds are going around town and they're doing professional development with council workers, with teachers, and with the adults and the business leaders in the community. And they're teaching them the digital media skills they need to further their businesses. And so this community that kind of didn't really value its young people, it's gone beyond valuing young people and going, well, we really need you and the knowledge you have. The last example I wanted to show was what that video was all about, which is that we found that with the older group of younger people, that some of them want a career in media and the arts. And really, to become redundant, you can't just do projects. You have to make it an employment for people. It has to be their job. And so we've focused around building small businesses that develop professional media skills and can, generate income from making media for the local community, and then put their excess income back into making stories about their community. Villawood Mums, the story that Saif and Gita were talking about, I just wanted to share with you a comment someone made on Facebook about that film. I watched Villawood Mums last month and have a story to share. A 70-year-old church attendee kept saying that refugees are well looked after. People in detention centres are always lucky to be in Australian soil. She couldn't understand what the fuss was about, all those people on the roofs of the detention centres. After watching Villawood Mums, that lady understood she didn't have the right information, and she decided to go visit the new arrivals. Something else that's happened is that we've been able to take the videos that these guys make, and because it's from the communities themselves, politicians and government tend to have a greater interest in it. So Villawood Mums has been seen by and commented on by the staff of the Department of Immigration and Citizenship and the Refugee Review Tribunal. The other great thing, and the last kind of thing I want to talk about, was that it's also a network. And we didn't know we were doing this, but what happened by mistake was that all these different communities want to talk to each other. So we kind of share and publish all our knowledge online. There's lots of companies around the world who are using our model to do the same program. So it's, we don't kind of keep ties over that intellectual property. And they're connecting with each other as well. So this is Curtis from the Western Desert, where Barry's talking about, and Guido from Western Sydney. And they're finding ways to share how they want to break out of their cycles of disadvantage with each other. This is, again, another crucial step in us becoming redundant. Now I can go to the beach. I just wanted to leave you with this one last insight about which one of the visitors from Roban said about kind of the way we work. And it's a very simple idea, but for me it kind of summarises what we can do when we do it as best as we can. He said, "We have many visitors come here, all with projects, investments and ideas for our future, all the grand plans. But once in a while we get visitors who contribute some happiness and joy and add to the social fabric that is already there. When that happens, the community responds with precious gifts of knowledge, of history, and most importantly, we make a connection with our visitors. Thanks.